everyone. How are you? We'll see how many people come on this live with us. Trying to straighten the camera out. I should have done this before I went live. Sorry, y'all. But anyway, how is everyone? Tonight we are going to talk about Juneteenth weekend. And we'll let people come on for a minute. We'll see if people show up, but we're going to talk anyway, even if they don't. So if you're from YouTube, let me know. And if you're on the Facebook side, let me know as well. So how was everyone's weekend? I hope everyone had a wonderful Juneteenth. I just wanted to come on here and talk about what happened this weekend. I posted on Facebook, did not really post anything on YouTube. And actually somebody was like, hey, I hope you talk about it on your YouTube channel. So this is actually perfect. So tell me y'all what you guys did on Juneteenth. I'll make a couple announcements first, and then we'll go ahead and go into exactly what we're talking about today. So a couple announcements. We are gearing up for our group trip on Saturday to Rosarito, Mexico. So if you're in the area and would like to come, definitely please there is room to still join with us. Also, we have a trip to Ghana coming up in December. We are still accepting slots for that as well. It's a 10-day trip. If you're interested, just send me a message. I can send you the link and the information to join us, and that will be for New Year's Eve. Also, I don't have any books up here, but also we still have Hues of Africa books, so let us know if you want those. Those are all about Africa. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay. So I still don't see a whole lot of people on, but we're just going to go ahead and get started in case you're watching this recap, so you don't have to just hear me talk. But anyway, so I want to talk about, I guess it's kind of related to being an influencer or content creator or whatever the case is. So let me explain a little bit. So being a content creator or being an influencer, and I'm in the travel sector, there is something called sponsored trips, okay? And on these particular sponsored trips, it basically means that the company that you are, quote unquote, I guess, working for or whatever the case is, means that they are going to actually sponsor your trip. And so sponsor your trip can mean various different things or different ways that they sponsor something, right? So sponsored trip could literally mean they're going to pay for your airfare, they're going to pay for your hotel, they're going to pay for things to do when you get down there, or they can say, hey, you get yourself down here, you get a hotel, I will give you vouchers for things to do in the city and places to eat. Some will say, I'll give you a hotel, you have to cover everything. So it really just depends on, like, I guess, the contract or whatever you have with, whoever you contracted with, okay? So going into this particular video of what we're talking about tonight, I took a sponsored trip this weekend, and the sponsored trip was from Black-owned Media, Equity, and Sustainability Institute. So shout out to them. This was actually a sponsored trip, and shout out to their sponsors. I don't know exactly all of their sponsors, but I think HP is one of them, so shout out to them. But basically, for this particular trip, this was basically a fully sponsored trip. And when I say fully sponsored, I mean airfare was paid for, flights were paid for, and then all the activities that we did while we were there, okay? So, and sometimes people, when you talk about sponsored trips, sometimes people will provide all of that and pay you to create content, okay? So this was not the case for this one. But everything I told you about was sponsored. So it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, who doesn't want to go somewhere and it basically be a free trip? So I've done free trips before, but maybe it was volunteer or maybe it was like halfway sponsored. So I feel like this was probably my first, like, I'm going to say basically almost fully sponsored trip. So we're going to manifest more of those. Okay. But anyway, so let's get into what this weekend actually looked like. This weekend started off with an opening reception, and I was so tired that I almost didn't go to the opening reception, but I'm so glad I did, because the opening reception is a great way to kind of mix and mingle. There was dinner there, a full meal. I got there like just in time as they were putting it up, but I showed it. It was like, can I fix my plate? So that was cool. And then just meeting and networking. There was like open bar, a DJ, different things like that. And so for this weekend, there was several different hotels that we were in. And so I walked over to the hotel and I walked back. So it's funny because my mom probably won't watch this video, but mom was like, are you okay? And I'm like, Mom, yes, I travel all the time. So she was worried about me walking from one hotel to the next. But it was actually downtown Oklahoma, but I felt perfectly safe walking around. And yeah, so that was the first night and it was wonderful. Okay. So going into our second day of the conference, there is, I think they served a light breakfast, but there's also breakfast at the hotel. And there was conferences in the morning. So there was like an opening about who actually BOMESI is, which I've already said their name before. And then after that, it went into like various sessions on different topics related to Black media. And then after that, so I kind of didn't get a chance to attend the first couple sessions in the morning time, but I did attend the keynote speaker, which was great. And then after that, they took us on a tour of Black Wall Street. And Black Wall Street is, if you guys have not heard about Black Wall Street, then that is probably a problem if you haven't heard about Black Wall Street before, because Black Wall Street is a very sad thing that happened. It happened literally almost 100 years ago. This is in 1921. Basically, Black Wall Street is literally a community that was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was a Black community. But they had, so think of Wall Street and then put the name Black in front of it, because this was a Black community. So any type of business that you can think about, this was the type of business that they had in this community. So whether it was restaurants, grocery stores, gas stations, whatever you need to build a community, they had this in their community, right? And so basically, one day, there was, the story is that there was a rumor that this Black guy had done something to this white woman. And apparently, others in the community, or that was actually outside the community, basically went in and like terrorized the community. And when I say terrorized, I mean killed. They basically went in with guns blazing, literally bombs dropping. Like, they say that this was one of the biggest massacres that occurred, where it was Americans on Americans, okay? And that's actually horrible. So the story was that the Black community was winning when there was guns, because there was a lot of war veterans that lived in the community that have fought for our country. But once there was fire bombs dropping, there was nothing literally that they could do. Okay. So they were outnumbered in that particular way. And so in this museum that we went to, they basically show like a depiction of what happened, like kind of like a reenactment of what happened, which was sad, because you hear these, at the time that this happened, some of the survivors were 7, 8 years. They were like kids. So imagine you're in this community where it's rich, it's affluent, you have families, like everybody, like life is good, you know? And then just imagine one day where someone literally comes and tear your whole world apart by bombing and killing, right? So although they said that this black man did what he did to this white woman, it's kind of like, well, if he did that, why wouldn't you prosecute one person instead of, you know, blaming a whole city? So in my opinion, this is something that they intended to do or wanted to do, because one man would not make you literally kill hundreds of people. And so I think recorded, they might have said like 100 people died, but they've also uncovered like mass graves, and they think that number is up to like 300 people that actually died during that 1921 massacre. And I think it was happening over like 2 days. And so of course these people were never the same after that. They tried to put in insurance claims. It was 1921. Tried to put in insurance claims. Of course, that didn't happen. The rumor is that there was one guy that got an insurance claim, and that's because he put on the paperwork that he was white. So it was kind of like amazing to be there, but then sad at the same time, because literally you realize what happened to these people. So they did try to rebuild, and they did rebuild a little bit, but it was just never the same, clearly. And eventually it just kind of died down to where it is today. And where it is today is a lot of the community, actually very little, if any, is even owned by Black people at all. And that's a sad situation about it. And the other thing is too, that even the curriculum for this, they said that they are just now starting to put this curriculum in the schools. Like the people in the city of Tulsa is like, they don't know about it, or they don't know too much about their history because it's not talked about. So I'm very glad that they are actually putting in the schools, because it's something that needs to be talked about. So after the museum, and the museum is fairly new, so if you're there, definitely go check it out. And then we got chances to walk around the city where Black Wall Street is actually at. But of course, the buildings are not the same, different things like that. They do have placards on the ground where you can see where like buildings used to be. But of course, you know, it's not the same. Anyway, so that was really cool to walk around. And then also, after the tour, there was like festivals and different things going on for the weekend. So you had the option to either go into the city for the Juneteenth Festival or to go back to your room. So I got mixed up with the buses and I went back to my room instead of staying out. But it was cool because I got a chance to hang out with one of the girls that was at my hotel and had some great Mexican food. Okay. So now we're on to our next day, which was more conferences, more speakers. There was some main speakers, and then there was some breakout sessions. So some of the main speakers, one of the speakers that we heard was like a hip hop company. And this particular company, it was amazing because they have been around for 25 years, y'all. And so them being around 25 years, it was crazy because they're low-key competitors in the hip-hop world. And they were around before the internet was around, which is super, super hilarious. You're thinking, as far as I know, the internet's always been around. But if you're talking about 25 years ago, it was just actually starting. So it was kind of interesting to hear their take, and interesting the fact that they had never met before. And this was their first time meeting. So let me know if you're on here and if you're saying something. I'm using my phone, so I can't really see the comments. So let me know if you're here. But anyway, so I thought that was super interesting. And then they actually talked about like mental health and hip hop very, very briefly. But me doing a course called Hip Hop Heals Trauma was super interesting to talk about, because I feel like it's a cool, interesting intersection. And so I really wanted to know their viewpoint on between the two. Okay. So I thought it was super, super interesting. Okay. And then after the sessions, there was also there were some other sessions. They were also talking, so HP also talked about things, and they were talking about advertising. So let me know if you guys are into ads and different things like that. So I do not utilize ads, and I think that is a big issue. I've always said that I need to utilize ads more for either the group trips or for the book. And they were just letting us know the importance of ads and what we need to do to jump in on that. So there was some different companies that were there letting us know how to use their ad service and different things like that. And obviously joining BOMESI, if you're in the media world, please check them out. If you have a media outlet and you're Black, please check them out. To get registered with their company. And so their thing is kind of being more like a collective, right? Because a lot of times if you have small numbers, I'm considered a small influencer, right? So sometimes if you have small numbers, like sometimes these ad companies, they want certain metrics, right? But because you're part of the BOMESI with other media outlets, it kind of takes away the things that you need for ads because you have this collective behind you, okay? So that was the conference. And after the conference, we got a chance to go to a mansion party. And so when I talk about sponsored trip, like they really took care of us, okay? I'm not a drinker, but if you were a drinker, then you would have loved it because literally there is an open bar every single night. And so anyways, the mansion party was really nice. They had music and food and drinks and different things like that. And then afterwards, we were able to go to the Juneteenth Festival, okay? So they say that this Juneteenth Festival, like this is one of the biggest festivals around in the world. I don't know how true that is, but we'll just take it as it is. And so there were a lot of people. But it's funny because we stayed downtown LA, and in downtown LA, I didn't see a lot of people that look like us. But at that Juneteenth Festival, oh, everybody came out. So I'm pretty sure people probably came out from other areas surrounding in Oklahoma as well. And so it was cool because we got a chance to get like passes to go further up into the front, still like a grass lawn area. But y'all, guess who performs? Drew Hill performed. So if you are if you grew up in the 90s, then you definitely know Drew Hill. If you grew up in the 90s, you definitely know Cisco. Cisco sung my song. He sung the thong song. That thong. So I was hoping that he would sing it. He did sing it. That was like the last song that he sung. So that, and Drew Hill performed. And so I forgot. My memory is not really good with music artists. So all I remember is Drew Hill. I only remember Cisco from Drew. I don't remember all the other band members. But I will tell you that the band members that were there, like they have vocals, y'all. Like basically, I guess there were so many people in and out of the group that he invited those that wanted to come back for the event, which was really cool. So it was a good time. It was a good time being amongst people. Y'all know, I was praying though, because I'm like, it's a festival, you know, people get crazy during this time. Of course, the police and stuff are out there, but people still act like they want to act up, you know, at these festivals where there's a lot of people. So thank God I am back home safely and nothing happened there. So after the Juneteenth Festival, we went to like an after hours place, hung out, ate, still just having a good time with each other. I think then we went to like a 24-hour donut shop, very random. And then we kind of went home. And so basically, throughout this conference, the good thing about attending conferences, y'all, and I highly suggest whether it's sponsored or not, go to a conference within your network, okay? When I say go to these conferences, like these are people that you are bonding with, even if it's that one time, you hope to bond with them so that things can continue afterwards. So I was supposed to be in for the book. Juneteenth is a big weekend for Hues of Africa, right? Because our Black people are out and they're gonna be out supporting vendors. So I had to tell somebody no because I was going to be flying, you know, out of town. And the cool thing was that even though I didn't bend at the place that somebody asked me to, I was still able to sell books at the conference and selling them just by literally talking to them. So I'm an extrovert where I can talk to people and network and different things like that. Everybody doesn't do that. So I actually feel really bad for introverts because I'm like, ooh, this would have been hard for them to go up to people to talk. But just a little advice when you're at these conferences is literally like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I do this. What do you do? And so when that conversation starts, then you realize, oh, you do have a lot in common. Or even if you don't have stuff in common, there is something that you can appreciate about the other person. So the networking opportunities were super, super cool. I met so many people, and the people that attended the conference could be like newspaper, digital, print, podcasters. I'm a YouTuber, plus I have a blog. These are people that are in production, in film, work in politics. So there are a range of different things. And I guarantee you, out of the one thing that you do, I'm pretty sure that you can find somebody that you can connect with. Whether you stay in the same city, I met people from, that went to Howard, whether, there's another YouTuber out there, even though the conference wasn't about my field of social work, I was able to connect with people on that level just because I talked about mental health. And that you don't have to work for social work to talk about mental health, right? So I definitely think that those are some tidbits that you all should think about, and think about attending these conferences. Another way to attend these conferences is to volunteer. Like, you may not get your flight and stuff paid for, but that's another way to be amongst people, because you want to be amongst the big dogs. You want to see what's going on. So I love travel conferences. I have not been to a travel conference in a couple years because of COVID. But this was the start of like, yes, Tiffany, you need to go. Because the last travel conference I went to was with Nomadis, and I was a speaker, and it was awesome to connect with people. So you guys, I'm telling you guys, it's valuable to go. Like, the connections along are definitely worth it. And so at this conference, I just felt like, you ever been to a family reunion, you haven't met all your cousins? Like, this how I felt. I felt like I was at a family reunion meeting old cousins that I had never met, and just grateful to like have met people and hopefully stay connected with them, even if it was briefly, and hopefully it'll, be longer than that. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. I didn't have a lot of people on here, but it's okay. I see there is one person on here. If you made a comment, for some reason I can't see comments, so I hope you haven't made a comment. But if you have, I appreciate you, whoever you are that is on here. Hopefully somebody else will watch it as well. But yeah, I just think that my heart left full. And I say my heart left full because not only was the trip sponsored, I feel like there were people along the way that also were like little angels as well. For example, my seatmate. Sometimes it's important to talk to your seatmates on the airport. It was an older Black woman. She literally, I asked her, was she from Tulsa? And she said yes. And so as I was waiting outside, she was like, hey, do you need a ride? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try to get an Uber. And she was like, oh, no, I'll take you. And it's funny because when I tell my family, they're like, Tiffany, you're crazy. That's dangerous. Don't do that. But my intuition usually works out fine when I'm traveling. And my intuition said that it was okay to get in her car. And so she dropped me off at the hotel and everything was fine. So shout outs to, I think her name is Kim, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to add her on Facebook. Oh, hey, CM Stu. Are you the person that's watching? Thank you so much. She says, love your content. I appreciate it. Glad you're enjoying the content that I put out. And then one of the other people that was there was like, oh no, I got dinner for you tonight. Another one was probably accidental. I wanted some lamb chops from this vendor, and they took forever. I'm not going to mention their name because I don't even know their name, but they took forever to give me my lamb chops. Okay. Like 2 hours. Okay. And for these lamb chops, I'm like, what the heck? So I was like, can you just slide like a little extra shrimp in there or something for my 2 hours? And they just went ahead and gave my money back and gave me the lamb chops as well. So I say all that to say that this was a wonderful weekend. And we talk about spending money. I spent less than $30 for, several days. So if that ain't a blessing, then I don't know what is. So I feel like the weekend was just a blessing. Like, I have no complaints. My hotel was even wonderful. Like, I think I had one of the best rooms because I talked to somebody else and they were directly across from me, and their room was much smaller than mine. I guess it had a little suite with like a living room. They did not have that. So when I tell you, literally from the beginning to the end, and I almost didn't go because I was like, I just don't know, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like last minute. But some of the last minute things are sometimes the best things. So definitely take opportunities when they are given to you. Let everything work itself out. I'm sure it will. And like have a good time. CM Stu, let me know if you have any questions about anything that I said since you've been watching the entire time. So yes, again, I'm saying go out, have fun, network. The thing about it is like you have to continuously promote yourself. You have to continuously like network. And I say that because like people don't know who you are. If I didn't tell people that I had a book at the conference, how would they purchase it? How would they know? So it's like people be like, oh, I shouldn't promote myself too much. No, promote yourself everywhere you can go and make sure you bring your product along with you. If you have a book, if you have a Canva, if you have some, people will just want to support. I had somebody else who bought 2 books since I've been home, met him at the conference. I was like, hey, do you want to see the book? And he was like, no, I don't need to see it. I'll support you. So some people just genuinely want to support, even if they don't know you. Do you know some of my biggest supporters? I feel like I'm preaching y'all now. But I feel like some of my biggest supporters have been from social media, from people that I don't know, people that I've never met before. So don't worry if your family doesn't support, your closest friend doesn't support, don't worry about them. Worry about the people that want to support you because there are people that absolutely are on your side and are excited about what you do. I literally was telling when I was, introducing myself to people, I'm like, I do this, I do this, I do that. And so when I'm thinking about it, it doesn't seem like I'm doing a whole lot. It actually seems like I could be doing more. And so a couple people were like, wow, I'm impressed, or you do so much. And so it sometimes takes other people to remind you of your capabilities and remind you that you're awesome. Like, you know that you're awesome in the back of your head, but when people like say it out loud, you're like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. I'm the bomb. So again, make sure that you get out there and make sure that you are enjoying life, taking a breather, and just have fun with it. Just have fun. It's business sometimes, but it's so much more than business. It's about connecting, and I think we should connect with each other. Like, I think that's super, super important because you never know who I know. You never know who they know. And you just never know how you can make a genuine connection. Okay. Okay, so I feel like I've talked for 27 minutes now. But I just wanted to literally tell you about how wonderful my weekend is. I didn't necessarily want to make a full YouTube. Well, I guess it's still a YouTube video, but I didn't want to make a regular video, so I thought, hey, this would be a perfect video for live. I'm gonna try to come on Wednesday nights for live, unless life gets in the way, which it has the last 2 weeks. So yeah, we're gonna try to keep on schedule. If not, I may pop in around this time on Wednesdays. But thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for rocking with me, Stu. I really, really appreciate it. And if you guys ever have any questions or any videos that you would like me to do on a certain topic, then please let me know. Well, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I want you all to have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of the week. All right. Thank you. Peace.